hobby for me. And what was amazing about this is that I always thought that a lot of people win or do very well in this competition and then they go on to build a business, right? But because I had a business before, I didn't think it was going to affect it at all because I sell ballet shoes, right? But then the month after I won, my sales increased. Let's see, I can't do math very well. It increased by 40% the next month.
Really? The very next month.
Yes, and the crazy thing is I was on a reality show last year in December, right? Promoting my business. And we thought that this was a nationally syndicated television show.
Right.
And we thought that we were going to get much more profits from that than like Toastmasters. And I didn't think Toastmasters had anything to do with my business. But I actually had a bigger sales increase from my Toastmasters success than my television series.
Really?
Yeah.
I actually saw it. I wanted to see it because, you know, that's what I do. I train entrepreneurs that are getting ready to pitch to investors. So when you said that, I was like, this is cool. I couldn't wait to watch it. And I was like, first of all, I knew you were going to nail the pitch. Knew that right off the bat. And when it got to the Q&A session, I don't remember what the question was, but guys, if you have got to spend some time with Josephine. When I tell you that this woman is hilarious, I don't think you know how funny she is. So she says, it's like a ballet boutique and a taco truck having a baby. And I
Yeah.
went, I said, did you say that? Yeah, that's her. Yeah, she really said that.
I,
that
I
that
was like,
that was really great. It really was. So let me ask you, how did you get started in Toastmasters? When did you get started, and how did you get started?
so I joined Toastmasters after I graduated from college around 2011, and that was about the same time that I started my business. And I was a communication major in college, and I wanted to continue my education in communication. So I basically Googled public speaking organizations, and Toastmasters, of course, comes up, right? So I attended a meeting, and that's how I got started, but I wanted to do something that was separate from my business. I wanted to do something that was just for fun, like a cool hobby. I didn't really think that it was going to turn out to be this incredible journey, but that's why I started, and I'm about, 5 years, almost, yeah,
Okay,
it's been about 5 years, yeah.
about 5 years. Okay,
Yeah.
when did you attend your first conference, and what was that like?
My first district conference?
Yep.
My first district conference was actually the one that I won. I've never actually attended a district conference before that.
Really?
So yes, so I was not well versed at all when it comes to the conferences. And actually, when I first started competing, I had no idea it was actually international. Like
Really?
I thought it was like a cute name. I didn't realize that it's actually 142 different countries that are entering into this realm, right?
Uh-huh.
But it was really interesting because how they say they call the baseball like World Series of baseball or whatever, and
Right.
it's not actually the World Series, it's just
Right.
the United States and Canada. I thought it was kind of like that, where they say it's international, but it's not really.
Uh-huh.
So I wasn't really, I had no idea how big this was. So just attending our district and how many people there were, and it was just incredible.
Now you guys have a really large district, right?
We do.
Really large.
We have
Yeah.
probably one of the biggest districts.
Right. And that was the original district that Ralph Smetley started with, right?
That's right.
Wow.
This was, mhm.
And you guys meet at like 7 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
Well, honestly, I started to attend the 7 a.m. meetings because I was working all day, every day, and the only time I had open was 7 a.m. So that's why I started attending that early, and I just stuck with it.
Good Lord. You know, I went to when I was practicing for the international competition, I went to a club in Houston.
Hmm.
And that's when they started at 7:30, which meant I got on the road here at like 4 o'clock a.m. And I was like, man, I don't see why would somebody do that at 7:30 a.m. And then you said you do. I was like, That is just like wrong on so many different levels, you know. Okay, so you got involved in Toastmaster in 2011, right?
No, I'm sorry. A little later than that, probably 2000, sorry, around 2013.
Two,
2011 was when I started my business. 2013 was when I started.
oh wow, that's when
Toast.
I started.
Yeah.
So you're still in. Some people come in, they get out. What is it that's made you stay in so far? Was it like a certain event that happened, or was it a person that made you a lifer, so to speak?
I think everybody joins Toastmasters to hone their skills in public speaking, but it's the people in the community that keeps you. So it's kind of like dating, right? You date somebody because they're attractive and then you stay because of the personality. So it's kind of like the same thing with Toastmasters, I think. You just start because, you want to nail that interview or you want to give that great speech or whatever, but then you end up staying because you become friends with a lot of these people and you find that it's such a supportive and encouraging organization, and I think that's why I stayed for so long.
Okay, so you guys are still dating. You haven't broken up yet.
Yeah, we're going steady. This is commitment.
I do.
This is basically the longest relationship I've ever had.
I don't know if you should be laughing at that.
What's that?
I don't know if you should be laughing at that.
Did I not say this publicly?
Okay, you talked about a little bit of just being in the finals and being the best female speaker on the planet in the universe. Now this is more than international because you're like the best female speaker like on Jupiter, Pluto, Mars, all of those planets, right? So what has it done for Josephine?
I think it gave me a lot of self-confidence. I think we all join Toastmasters because we all have a little bit of self-consciousness when it comes to public speaking, and we all kind of doubt ourselves a little bit. And this is an organization that helps people face their greatest fears. And I think just being able to make the finals and having that kind of approval from the judges and the audience and everything, it gives you a lot of self-confidence. And I think even since the competition, I have become more confident in in everyday in everyday conversations and the panels that I get invited to and the speeches that I give. I think I'm just a little bit more confident when it comes to that. So
Mhm.
personally, that's what Toastmasters has done for me and the getting into the competition.
Now, if I remember correctly, last year you competed. I'm going to ask you when you first started competing,
Oh
but
yes,
last year, okay, so you told me you didn't even get out of the club last year?
that's right. So last year I competed with a speech called procrastination. And I didn't get out of the club level because it was, and I think hindsight, I'm looking at it now and I'm like, I'm seeing all the flaws of why I didn't make it out of the club. But it was an interesting experience that I competed and I wasn't able to get out.
Hmm. So how did that affect you, or did it affect you?
I don't think it meant as much as it did to me this year, but I think it gave me motivation, I think, to work harder and write better speeches and rewrite them and practice them more. Because at that time, I wasn't really practicing my speeches. I wasn't writing them out. All of the things that I did to prepare this year, I didn't really do last year. So it really motivated me to do better.
So when you started this year,
Hmm.
2016, you said, okay, I'm going to get serious about this. What did you do? What did you do differently?
Well, this year the difference was I knew that good speeches are not written, it's rewritten. So instead of having a basic outline and kind of going off the cuff, I actually wrote down my entire speech. I practiced. And the other thing that I did was I hired a coach. And I think that was one of the biggest differences that between this year and last year.
Now, I do, for everybody that's listening, I do want to say this. If you're going to be competing, we've already, let's see, who was it? Let's see, Dana Lamone talked about coaching. A lot of people talked about getting a coach. you do not have to get a world champion to be your coach. I met her coach once, fantastic guy. And I think the key to the success that you had was the chemistry that you had with him,
That's
right?
right.
Now,
Absolutely.
tell me a little bit about Mike.
Okay, so is a fantastic writer. And I think the key to finding a good coach is really to understand yourself first and to understand what you need help with and what your strengths are as well. And you want to make sure that you want to hire a coach that highlights your strengths and also to help you with your weakness. And I knew that my weakness was in content and writing. And just from knowing Mun for the past several years, I knew that he was an incredible writer and that he can curate a speech and make it funnier, make it more heartfelt, and that's what I needed in my speech. And what I loved about him was his humor. And I think everybody has different types of humor, but you have to really pick the person that has like the same type of humor as you. So he uses a lot of expressions. He's very outgoing. He uses a lot of his intonations in his speeches, and that's what I wanted. There are certain people that have different types of humor, and I think Muhammad Khatani is actually an incredible speaker when it comes to humor. He's just very smart,
Right.
and I thought that his type of humor and Mun's type of humor matched mine the best.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's important to really understand yourself before you choose.
Okay. I'm going to see if I can get Mun on this call one day in the upcoming weeks because he's really, really a great guy. Plus, I want to give everybody that information too as well. But yeah,
Yes,
he's really, really a great guy. If anybody has any questions for Josephine, go and type them in the chat box. We're not going to answer them right now, but if you're kind of getting up in age like myself, you may forget. So make sure you put it in the chat box right now. We'll get to them at the end of our session. Okay. Now, you may have had them, you may not have had them, but the one thing that, and you said it earlier, that Toastmaster will force you to do is to face your own fears. And what I found was I know for me, I've done a lot of things in the past, whether it be team sports and, military things like that. But, you know, I found out who I really was, in Toastmasters, because this is when I had to face that one person that I was always, always afraid of. I've always said, I'm not afraid of any man, but that was one person I was always afraid of, and that was me. So in order for me to break through that threshold, I had to face the internal fears that I had. And I wasn't successful the first time. And a lot of people aren't, and that's when they get out. So in your journey in Toastmasters, whether it be from 2013 to now or just this past year, what were some of the lows, or have you experienced any lows in Toastmasters?
in Toastmasters, I think not being able to get out of the club last year, that was definitely a low. But I think in general, Toastmasters is a very encouraging organization, and by design, it has to be that way. Because if you are facing your greatest fears, and if this is a critical organization, or if this was an organization that tears each other down, then it wouldn't exist. It has to be encouraging. So even in my moments of doubt, and even in my moments of fear and all of that, I think it was incredible that I had this community behind me. Because I mean, you and I, Joel, like even in our competition setting, we were so encouraging to each other because that is just our organization.
Right.
We that was by design. Just Toastmasters is like that. So very, very few lows in Toastmasters for sure.
What was your high in Toastmasters so far?
I'm really trying to think of another time than winning the trophy, but I think that was one of the greatest
Mm-hmm.
highs.
What was so great about it for you?
I think it was just that it was so unexpected. It was so unexpected. Every single round was so unexpected. I had no idea I was going to get past district. I mean, I think there is a photo of me just like in complete utter shock. that when I won district, when they called my name, I had no idea. When they called third place, I turned around to my friends and I said, "You guys, I didn't place. It's okay. It's okay." And then they called my name and I was like, What do you mean?" Yeah. So so that was a really cool high for me. And then just to see like this incredible district that rallied behind me, that was an amazing, amazing experience. And to meet people from all over the world and to be able to travel to meet Toastmasters in different countries, that's an incredible high. So really has been a wonderful ride this entire time.
Yeah, it really has been. You know, the funny thing, we were I was talking to Laszlo about 2 weeks
Mm.
ago, and you know, you're saying that it was a surprise, but I remember when they called your name as the winner for our concert. I think you had your headphones on, or you were doing something, and I looked at Laszlo. I said, "She's got her headphones on." I was like, and but you know, he said that I thought you did great, deserving of everything. And but we were talking and said, you know what? We actually thought that you won the world title. We did.
Oh, that's
Really
so
did.
sweet. Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
That's really sweet.
It was really great. The whole experience was okay. Move on because I don't want to get bogged down because I know we have a. I'm not the only one that wants to talk to you here. Okay, so now we're going to have some people that's going to be competing for the first time. We're going to have some people that are giving it the old college try again. You know, they may have, you know what it's like not to win the district, and it takes a lot to get back on that horse again. And that's the one thing that I was talking about when, you know, that's when I found out who I was. When I said, okay, well, am I going to get out? Am I just going to, you know, just ease on back into the bushes and let everybody do their thing, or am I just going to pick myself, brush myself off, and try it again? So, which is what we both did. So now, for those people, everybody, get your pens ready because now we're about to get down to the nitty gritty. So we talked about writing a speech. And I've asked everybody, when it comes to writing your winning speech, how do you go about doing
All of a sudden,
it? Okay,
your
folks,
audio
if
is,
there's somebody,
there we go.
okay, did you hear the question?
No, I'm sorry. It was echoing.
Oh, okay, kind of sound like woo, 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 like that.
Yeah.
Okay, when it comes to writing a contest winning speech, okay, let's just say if you decide to do it again, okay, take us through that process of writing a speech. Everybody, get your pens and pencils out. Here we go.
So in choosing a topic, you really want to think about all of the stories that you remember in your life. And I had this conversation with several people, and they said that, I don't have a crazy story that I can tell in my life about my life. I don't have a death in my family. I don't have an incredible achievement. I didn't like have all this stuff. But, it doesn't have to be that because the greatest stories are stem from the things that you remember from your past. Because if you remember a story from your past, that means that it taught you something. It made an impact in your life. So every single one of the stories that you can remember from your childhood or remember from high school or college, there's a lesson in there. So if you think, the story that I did in my final speech, I Will Be There, it started out with the gas tank story because it is a story that
Did
is
that really happen?
what's that?
Did that really happen?
That really happened, unfortunately.
Wow.
It's just so stupid. I'm like, it's told every year at my birthday. So I'm like, there's a
I
reason.
bet every time your dad sees you, the one thing he does is check to make sure you got gas in your car. He'll probably do it for the rest of your life.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's definitely a thing. And the sad thing is like that still happens like now. Like I have like no gas in my gas tank right now. Like
Oh,
this is just my brain and logistics. It just doesn't work. But that story, we retell that story and then there must be something in there. So, and if you think about any story of your past, there are several lessons within each story. So you think about the story first, and then you find the lesson within there. So the gas tank story, that was when I, forgot to fill up my gas tank, my car stalls, my best friend comes to save me. We go to the gas station, buy the empty canister, try to fill up my car with an empty canister, and then realize that we have to also buy gas, right? So that is the story. And we were thinking about a lot of different a lot of different lessons from that story. And the first lesson that I thought I was going to speak about was don't be afraid to look stupid. Because what we had to do was we had to go back to the same gas station and face the cashier and then pay them to fill up my gas tank and admit that we forgot to do this. So that was one lesson. And then the second lesson that I thought about was being there for your friend.
Mm-hmm.
And that was when we thought about that lesson, my heart just sank. And I knew that that was the true message that I had to write about. And that's how I came up with that topic.
Okay. So now that I got my topic, what's next?
So after you write your topic, you want to make sure that there is one lesson, right? And everything you write about in your speech has to have that one lesson, and everything has to support that one lesson. And the reason for that is because if you have a 45-minute keynote, then you can talk about several different lessons that you talk about, but you only have 5 to 7 minutes. And you have to really convince the audience to not only learn the lesson, but also to convince them that they like you and they connect with you and they want to be friends with you in 5 to 7 minutes. And that's a lot of pressure for 5 to 7 minutes. So you have to really just stay with one lesson and go from there. So think of the lesson and make sure that the structure is there to support that evidence.
Okay. Now let's talk about speech structure. So we get into the nitty-gritty now. Okay. Because as I said, we have some people that are going to be, competing for the first time. What exactly is speech structure? What is that?
The speech structure is there so that the audience can really follow the story. And writing for a speech is very different than writing for an essay or anything that is written down on paper. Because words are so fleeting when it's spoken. So it needs to be more clear, it needs to be simple, and it needs to be repetitive. So writing a structure that is easy to remember and easy to follow is the most important. So that's the whole point of speech structure. And the simplest way that Toastmasters actually teach speech structure is tell them what you're going to tell them, and tell them what you told them. And there are several ways to do this where you can have that same structure, and within that structure you can have a long story method where it's like a sequential story from beginning to end. You can have a 3-story method where you have 3 examples that support your evidence, or you can have a comparison where you have one story and then another story that compare. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what Darren Tay used for his speech. Mm-hmm. And actually all 3 of us, if you're familiar with the speeches, all 3 of our speeches, we have all 3 different structures. Darren Tay had the comparison, mm-hmm. and Aaron Beverly had the 3 examples, and I had the long story method. So all 3 of us had different structures, but we all used the main structure of tell them what you're about to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. So basically we take that and we tell stories because we are experts in our own experiences, and nobody can dispute that.
Right. So let's talk about humor. Now, you said you originally asked Munn to coach you because, that was one of his strengths. So, I mean, it was hilarious. Your speech, Ted Cochran, our contest chair, if you go back to listen to your speech, I mean, he's like dying, like he's hiding behind the podium, but he is like dying laughing.
Yeah.
Did he do that or you did? Or was it a combination?
It's a combination of both, and it really helped that we had very similar humor as well, and we built on top of each other's humor. So I'll take it one way, and then he'll take it even further, or vice versa. So humor is so important, and even though it's not written that you need humor in your speech, almost every speech that wins has some kind of humor in there because that is the fastest way to connect with your audience and the
Mhm.
fastest way to win them over. And the faster you win them over, the better it is. So the faster you make your audience laugh, the better it is. So you want to really open your speech with humor
Mhm.
and just sow it throughout your speech.
Mhm. Now, I heard, or I think I read on your, maybe it was an interview you did, or maybe on your website, that ballet dancing helped you with staging. How is that possible?
So I danced for about 13 years, and every year that I dance, there is some kind of performance involved. And stage presence is something that I think emulates with the person that's on stage. It's something that shows confidence. It shows that you are comfortable on stage, and that's something that transferred over very well from my ballet career to Toastmasters. And the level of comfort that you feel when you're on stage is very apparent. And I think that is something that you get used to the more times you are on stage. And
Mhm.
that's why Toastmasters is so important, is that because you have all this stage time and there's so much opportunities to be in front of an audience, you become more and more comfortable. And I think because I had 13 years of stage experience, that really showed through. And that was the interesting thing about my business too, was that I actually wrote that article and I posted it on on my website, on my business website. And a lot of dancers felt like they could relate. So you take these ballerinas and then you put them on stage, they feel very comfortable because it feels like home. And that's because we lived there. We were up there for a very long time.
Really? Okay. Wow, that's pretty cool. Because I would have never. Okay, ballet, public speaking. You're not doing the pirouettes and the and all that. So I was just really curious how how would you basically relate the two. So somebody competing for the first time. Okay, what advice would you give them?
I think everybody should focus on the experience that they're going to get and focus on becoming a better speaker rather than the trophy and what you can get out of it. And I know that a lot of people say that, but it's true. It's when we were preparing for the contest, it was always about being able to being able to be in front of a new audience
Hmm.
because that's an opportunity to grow. It's more uncomfortable speaking in front of a crowd that you don't know or you're not familiar with. And the bigger the crowd, the feelings are different in a different crowd. And to be able to have that opportunity to become a better speaker is all this competition is really about.
Right. Muhammad Katani, of course, they all said the same thing, and it is true. But he was telling the story about, because he had competed a couple times before he won the world championship, and it was his coach that I think it was maybe at the district level that he didn't win, and he was just really down about it. And his coach asked him, he said, well, what's wrong? And he says, well, no, I didn't win the trophy. That's what he said. He said, well, if it's all about the trophy, he said, let's go down the street and I'll buy you one.
Mm.
He said, I can go buy that trophy. If that's what it's all about for you, he said, I'll go buy you one. He said, that's no big deal. He said, but if you want to really progress in this, it can't be about the trophy. It can't. And I would probably say that, just the experience and the journey of going from sitting here in my office saying, okay, I'm going to compete, to actually being there in DC was, you know, I got a chance to present in front of so many different types of audience, so many different sizes, AM in the morning, noon, and then at night. And if you remember, one of the questions that when we were on the panel at our conference, Kathleen asked, did that change, or I think it was something to the effect of, did the did this were you worried about the staging or something, or maybe worried about the artist? But at that point, that none of that stuff mattered. None of that stuff mattered because I had just with one speech for 5 to 7 minutes, you just keep perfecting and perfecting and perfecting, which is something that you normally don't do in Toastmasters. If you're working in a manual, you'll get that, one speech and then you're going to something else. But this focuses you to just get better and better and better. So the journey was where, I really benefited. Plus meeting all these great people. I mean, that was just like, that was unbelievable. It really was. Okay, I see we have a question in the chat box. That's from Mr. Greg Kitchen. Can you read it?
I can't. Let's see.
Cannot? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. That just came. Bernadette?
I see.
Is that the question?
Okay, I see Greg, Bernadette. Okay. There's two.
I'm only seeing Bernadette's.
Okay. I'll read Greg's first. He was for okay. Best advice to prepare. Number 1 equals understand yourself first. Number 2, find a coach that will highlight your. Are you taking notes, Greg? Find a coach that will highlight your strengths and help you with your weakness. Number 3, and beyond. Okay. And I guess he's asking you to after number 3. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes.
Okay, I hear it. Okay, hold on. How about that?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yep. 10 for everybody. Okay, so did you? Well, I guess he's looking for number 3. Things, understand yourself first, find the course that will highlight your weaknesses. Number 3 and beyond.
I'm sorry, number 3 and beyond?
Yeah, what you were saying.
Sorry, it keeps muting me.
Okay, sorry about that. I tried to get that background noise out. I wasn't doing it on purpose.
Mute.
What? I can't hear you. What? Okay, so when you was everything after, I think we were talking about the best advice to prepare for a speech.
Right.
And I guess the first thing you were talking about was understanding yourself first and finding a coach that highlights your strengths and help you with your weaknesses. Okay, so what did you say after that?
What did I say after that?
That's what he wants to know.
Let's see. Make up something quick. I think preparing, honestly, it's all about practicing because it's like everything goes through the valley of suck. And every piece of artwork or literature or a piece of writing that you create is going to go through something called the valley of suck. And you have to come out of it. So you have to start writing and practicing and rewriting it and practicing some more. So it really is a process. And, brilliance doesn't just happen. It has to be work. You have to work for it. So I think that is the best advice that I can give is just write and rewrite it. Practice it, test it out, rewrite it.
Over and over again. Okay, next one is from Bernadette. You can see that one, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So let's see. How often and how long did you practice when preparing for the international competition? I probably went to a club at least once a week, if not twice a week, to practice. But apart from practicing at a club, I was constantly practicing at home or in the shower or when I'm driving. It was something that I was like muttering. So you really have to practice to the point where it's muscle memory, even if it's words that are coming out. Because once you get to the point where you've practiced enough times, the words are just coming out, and you're just reliving the stories that you are telling, and you have to get to that point.
So when you said you would go to a club at least once or twice a week, when did you start?
When did I start practicing?
Yeah,
I think right after I
leading up
won
to the competition, leading up.
leading up to the competition. So after I won district, I think I started to practice right away because it was really cool. There's a lot of clubs in my district that have this tradition of inviting the district winner to speak at their clubs during their annual event, and that happens right after the competition for our
Wow.
district. And so it was really cool. I didn't even have to plan anything at first because they were just inviting me to come speak to them because I had no idea I was supposed to practice at clubs. And then afterwards, when I was talking to my coach, he was like, you know, you really need to start practicing in different clubs as well. So I was very fortunate to be invited to a lot of the clubs right off the bat. And following, I think about a month before I went to the contest, we finished the final draft of the speech of the finals. And we started to practice that about a month. So I stopped practicing my semifinal speech about a month before we went to Washington, D.C. and started practicing my final speech. And this was really, it was so difficult because I was like, what? I already wrote a speech. Why can't we do this one? And I was like, I need to practice the final ones too. And then I was fighting with my coach. I was actually being like a complete brat. And I was like, why are we even writing a second speech? This is stupid. I'm not even going to make the finals. And then I ended up making the finals. And I was like, I'm sorry. You were right. I'm so happy that we practiced.
You're a genius, right?
Yeah, seriously. He's like, oh, I'm never working with you again.
Awesome. Okay, so we got another question from Mr. Phil Verona. Hey, you remember Phil, right?
Humor.
Yeah.
I see another one from Bernadette.
That's the only one you see. Okay, Phil Verona says, let's see, well, I need to get some glasses. When you're practicing, what kind of audiences were the most helpful for you to practice in front of?
The audience that was the most helpful to practice in front of were bigger crowds, like bigger audience members, because the clubs that you went to visit that had about, 5 or 6 members, it's so hard to get a small crowd to laugh. And it's kind of draining to be practicing in front of a crowd that doesn't laugh at your jokes. It's really disheartening. So I think at that point you really need more confidence. And bigger crowds, you get more helpful feedback. So we had a slip of paper where people can write down their comments and their helpful tips. And in a bigger crowd, there was just more energy, there was more laughter, and it gave me more confidence to continue on instead
Mm-hmm.
of the smaller ones that I'm like, ugh. It's like getting them to laugh. I'm like, oh, I'm funnier than this, I swear.
Well, I mean, it's kind of hard to be funny at 7:30 in the morning. You know,
What's that?
it's kind of hard to be funny at 7:30 in the morning.
That's true. That is true. Everybody's like, I don't laugh before my third cup of coffee. So that's definitely a challenge.
Did you use the scorecard when you either practiced or wrote your speech?
The scorecard? No, I didn't actually. To be honest with you, I don't even know what's on the scorecard.
Wow.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say like, okay, well, what's the scorecard?
Yeah. I'm like, what is that? I'm not really sure. And I think I tried not to write a speech to win. I wrote a speech that I wanted to tell. I wanted to give. And I think that was really important to me. And even when I was practicing and I started to watch all these other world champions, I didn't study them. And I tried to stay away from all the other speakers because I wanted it to be me. I didn't want it to be Josephine trying to be Dhananjaya or Josephine trying to be Muhammad Kotani. I wanted to just be me. So I actually stayed away from scorecards or trying to be so Toastmastery, or, you know, I try to stay away from all of that so that it really came through as me being me.
Hmm. So the speech that you did in the was it semifinal? No, the final speech when you're talking about your friend. Have you did you reconnect with her? Had she seen it?
Oh yes, she did. You know what's funny is that I actually hired her husband to do, because he's a videographer, so I hired him to do some of my videos for my business. So we're
Good.
actually totally in contact now, and it was great. And then she laughed about it because, and it's funny because her dad actually did tell that story at her wedding. Like this was a real story. Like he told me this, yeah. And I put that part in the speech, but it's all a true story. The whole thing was true. So it was just so funny that we connected and we we had a good time talking about it.
Wow. So everywhere you go to have, oh yeah, that's her that tried to fill the car with the thing, right?
Do I really want to be remembered for this?
Oh man, wow. I mean, I would have liked it to have been a joke, and you say, no, I really didn't do that. You really did. Okay, we take a look see if we have any other questions here. Because it seems like some of you can see, some of them you can't. Wait, I think, okay, Bernadette had two questions. Humor picks someone that has the same type of humor as you do. Right, that was correct. So go and elaborate on that.
Oh, yeah. So there's so many different types of humor, and I think even watching different comedians, you can see the different types of humor. There's this really like deadpan type of humor where they're just
Ben Stein.
everything, yes, very dry, right? And there's really expression, like there's like full of expression, people who have like a lot of energy and enthusiasm, and there's a type of humor that is just really depressing, or like, you know, there's all these different types of humor, and that really plays a lot to your personality. And I think that you have to find somebody that has a very similar type of humor and try, and that way, that was the greatest part of writing the speech with Mun, was because we were able to play on each other's humor, and we had similar type of suggestions, and we took it even further and further and further, and we had a great time doing it. So the whole experience was really fun.
So when you came back from DC, you came here to New Orleans, and where did you go after that? Because I know I bet
After New
there's a saying going around the world in 80 days, but you did it in less than that, right? Because you were like, whoa,
right.
where'd you
So
go?
I was able to go to Russia, and that was an incredible opportunity. Amazing. So I went to the Moscow area, actually, because they don't have a district. And
Really?
they had this yes, they had this massive area contest, and there were about, you know, they were able to pull like 80, 90 people in the audience just for their area
Yeah,
contest.
area contest.
Yeah, yeah, it was amazing. It was incredible, and just, and this was the most eye-opening experience for me, because what happened was that I always knew that Toastmasters at home were the most supportive and the most encouraging group of people.
Hmm.
But I didn't know that this culture, that this Toastmasters culture permeated through the entire world. And it was the same thing in Russia, that they were such a kind and encouraging and wonderful organization. And I was like, oh my gosh, this culture is so strong that
Really?
this happened in all over the world. And it's amazing. And you know, like, I'm going to China next week, and I'm not speaking there, but I'm going to visit a Toastmasters group over there. And then after that, I'm going to the Middle East, and I was invited to come give a speech in the Middle East in 3 different countries.
Wow.
And I, yeah, and if you think about this, and I was calling my credit card company yesterday because in Russia they flagged my credit card because they were like, why are you spending $2,000 in Russia, right? But they flagged it, and then I was like, no, no, it is me. And then they were like, oh, okay, well, that's a restricted country. So my credit card like flagged Russia as a high restricted country. And then I called this time to make sure that that didn't happen. I'm like, I'm going to China. I'm just letting you know if there's some credit card and like transactions over there, it's because I'm going to China. And they're like, oh, we can't authorize that because that's a restricted country. Yeah. And then I was like, okay, so I'm going to the Middle East in March. Is that flag too? So I'm basically going to 3 regions in 6 months that are like all restricted by the United States, right? And I thought that was like insane that I'm going to, I'm probably on some kind of a watch list now, but I'm like,
How about those
all
to
these,
the post office?
I know, right?
What you
Like,
talking?
no, right? Yeah, but I thought it was amazing that even though our world and our politics and our foreign relationships are so strained, within the realm of Toastmasters, we are still family.
Yeah.
And we're still together and we still love each other. And I just thought that that was so amazing, this realization. And Toastmasters truly is, for me at least, my version of world peace.
Hmm.
It's just amazing that we can take this culture and take it all over the world, and we're all supportive and encouraging under the name of communication. And that was the most wonderful experience of all.
You know, when I first got to the hotel, I walked in by myself, and of course, you know, there's people everywhere. I'm the type of guy, I'm just going to kind of, you know, kind of sleep on by myself. And I'm going up the stairs. And the guy says, hi, how are you? My name is, I don't remember what his name was. So we just started, we just struck up a conversation. And this other guy walked up and, you know, so we just talked and I asked him, you know, where he's from. He's from Canada. Okay, great. I'm from Louisiana. Okay, great. And I thought the other two guys were together. He said, well, hi, how are you? No, they weren't. They were just walking and talking to people. And this guy was from Hungary. It's like, wow, what are the odds of that happening? Because normally people just stick to their own, you know,
That's right.
and it was, so that brought me out of my shell. And I would just walk around, hey, how you doing? How you doing? How you doing? How you doing?
It's true.
Yeah,
It's just like this is how the world should be.
yeah,
And I just thought that was so amazing. And that's just it's serious. It truly warms my heart to think about it.
it's awesome. Okay, got another question for you. Okay,
Sure.
can you see it?
Yes. Is it from Aisha?
Yeah.
Yes. Where did you start from? Oops. Where did you start from and go to find your coach? Oh, I was very lucky. I knew Mun for a couple years. Mun was our district champion from 2013. And I competed in 2014 and I made it to division. And he was at my division contest and that's where I met him. And we became friends ever since. We kept in touch and that's how I hired him because I knew him. So I was very, very lucky in finding
So
him.
you guys don't live close together, or do you?
What's that? Oh yeah, absolutely. I will not give a speech without him.
No, no, I say, do you live? Because you said you met him at the division contest, and I know that the
Oh
founder
yes.
district is big. I mean, do you guys live in the same city, or?
Oh yes.
Oh, okay,
We're very close. I think even though Founders District is really big and it covers a lot of ground, everything is still 20, 30 minutes away.
okay, cool. Does anybody else have any questions? Just type them in the chat box, or type them in the chat box.
Someone said, it's not a question, but I love the thought about Toastmasters. We're still family. Aw,
Yeah,
that's true. Really, I was so touched by the entire experience.
yeah. I tell you what, when you came here, people loved you. It was like, we love Josephine. The feedback that we got was amazing. It really was.
That is,
We had a debriefing. You know, we looked at all the data, and you were you were the high point.
oh, that is so kind.
Yep.
That
So
was
you
really,
definitely.
really great.
You know, I apologize that I didn't get you the opportunity to hang out with you before you left, and I'm sorry I didn't get to come to LA. I was in Arizona, and I was supposed to spend that week in LA, but I didn't come. But I'm coming back in June, the middle of June. So I have it scheduled where I'm going to spend a couple of days. I'm going to shoot out LA. Hopefully you're still not there and not running all over the planet, saving the world and all that kind of stuff. So maybe we get the opportunity to hang out there. It's going to be from
Yeah,
June 6th, I believe. June 6th to like the 15th. I'll be there. So
perfect.
great.
I
Awesome.
will block out my calendar.
Block
We're
out.
going to hang out.
Great. So what's next for Josephine?
What's next for me? I think I am very involved in my business still, and we're working on my expansion. We are in our expansion phase right now, so we're looking into opportunities to go into different countries and also to expand in the United States. So it's something that I'm very involved with, and I think a lot of people ask me if I'm going to do anything with speaking, and I think this is speaking is a supplement to my business, and it has helped me tremendously. But speaking in on itself is not my business for now. Maybe later on it's something that I might consider. But for now, it is definitely a wonderful, wonderful supplement. And what I was able to do was to take this experience, and whenever I go to a different country, I take the opportunity to see if there's any opportunities in that region to expand my business as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of cool because with public speaking, I launched my YouTube channel at the end of last year, and reviewing point shoes and everything, and these are things that I would have never been able to do without Toastmasters. And when I launched that, this week actually one of the big brands asked me to start doing reviews for them, and I thought that was kind of cool that they just picked it up and asked me to do that because they thought I had a great personality. I have this background in dance, and I was able to put together a mini speech.
Besides, you're
So
Josephine. Who wouldn't want you to review their product? Right?
yeah, I mean, it's great. I just think it's wonderful.
See, Mr. Doucette said, do you have an interpreter? I'm assuming that's for when you go to different countries.
Yes, well, in all 142 countries that Toastmasters exists, they speak English. And when I went to Russia, the entire conference was ran in English, but there was a Russian-speaking portion to it. And that's when I wasn't paying attention, obviously. But they had one speech contest in Russian, and then everything else was in English.
Really? Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Well, that's pretty cool. So how long are you going to be in China?
In China, I'm going to be there from the 14th through the 22nd.
Okay. And then
I'm leaving.
you go directly to the Middle East, or you come back here to the States and then,
So it's a really tight schedule. I'm coming back to the States, and then I'm flying back out to the Middle East.
oh, man, don't you hate it? Or do you love it?
I do love it. I think it's amazing. I love being busy. I love riding planes. I love public transportation. That sounds really strange, but I do. And
Until I had the worst thing happen to me. I got stuck in Dallas.
oh no.
When I was on my way to Arizona, yes. And it was just, make a long story short, I got stuck with this little kid, this little toddler, who was not feeling well. And he let
Oh no.
everybody in the whole state of Texas know he wasn't feeling well. And I had to stay with him for 12 hours.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I would not like traveling that way.
yeah.
That would deter my love for traveling.
Okay. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Well, we still got a couple of minutes, see if anybody wants to ask any more questions. But I know what I would say, but I want to hear from you. Okay. What type of inspiration or what would be your closing inspirational words for people that are, whether they're going to be competing or not, if they taking the step to get involved in Toastmasters because they want to better themselves, what would you tell them?
I would say to just try it. And this goes for business and for speaking as well, because there's not every experience is a learning opportunity, and I wouldn't be here if I didn't have the experience of practicing and participating in contests. I wouldn't be here if, you know, I wasn't just able to do my business and figure it out from there. So I think it's just taking the chance and then figuring out how to do it after is more important than trying to figure it out and then do it. So
Right.
I think it needs to be flipped.
Yeah. I'm going to use that. I'm going
Yeah.
to use that. Okay. Well, that's our time. Josephine, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy weekend. As always, it's great seeing you, my friend. Make sure you stay in touch
Oh,
with us, okay? And I tell you, when I do come
absolutely.
out there, we're definitely going to have to hang out, and it's always selfie time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. Take care.
Okay, bye.